Yeah, I mean, you can fake it till you make it in a lot of areas, particularly if you're working for somebody else. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be great at something, you've got to make the effort to be great at something. Whether it's sports, whether it's physics, math, science, business, whatever it may be, you know, it's not just a natural skill. You've got to learn, and particularly if you're in the technology industry, because it changes every day. You know, when I got started, I was a bartender when I first came to Dallas, got into the PC industry, got fired, started my own company. But I learned early on that there was always something new, and most people didn't put in the time to learn it. It's like now with artificial intelligence. Lots of people talk about artificial intelligence. Lots of people talk about machine learning and neural networks. Not a lot of people are putting in the time to take classes or do the tutorials or to learn how to apply it to business, and that's what it takes. And you know, that's just something I've always enjoyed, so I've been fortunate with it.
Need motivation?
Watch a Top 10 Rules video with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I struggled to believe in myself. I quit on my business partner. And the thing that saved me was watching the successful stories of entrepreneurs. They gave me the inspiration to keep going, as well as the strategies of what to do. And quite honestly, I still need their stories and motivation today as well. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Mark Cuban, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is be a good leader.
You may not be a leader to anybody more than, you know, the two people who work for you, but it's still a responsibility. And I think as you gain more success, however you define that, being a leader becomes more and more important. How you define success becomes more and more important. What you're able to do and the impact you're able to have becomes more and more important. Where I am in my life at this point, it means trying to accomplish things that I've dreamed about but was never in a position to try to accomplish or succeed at, and that's what I'm trying to do now.
Rule number 3 is know your business.
I think people will always stop me and say, well, I want to start a business, what should I do? And if you don't know, you're not ready.
Right.
You know, you've got to have something that you're good at. And if you're going to do it, you got to be the best at it. Because I'll tell them, look, if I come in and compete with you, I'm going to kick your ass. Are you ready to compete with me? Right? And you've got to work like there's someone working 24 hours a day to take it away from you.
Rule number 4 is commit yourself to learning.
I'm not a big mentor guy. I've always been a believer that if you really want to learn something and be great at something, you have to put in the time. A lot of people look for mentors as shortcuts, when in reality, maybe they help you a little bit, maybe they help you avoid some mistakes, but when you're just getting started out in particular, it's okay to make those mistakes. And more importantly, you have to make the commitment to put in the time to learn what you need to learn to be great at something or good at what you want to be good at.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is always look for new ideas.
What are you looking for when you get pitched? Like you get pitched on television, you get
everywhere.
pitched in your real life, you clearly answer your DMs.
Pitched in the restaurants and restrooms, you name. I look for something that makes me think, why didn't I think of that? You know, or it makes me think, oh my goodness, that's a good idea. And then the follow-up questions are, you know, is it differentiated enough? Can they protect it? What's the unique element? And then the secondary part to that, or not even secondary, the other part of it is, you know, how good an entrepreneur is and can I help them? And so once I get past those initial hurdles, whether it's Shark Tank or just, you know, people emailing me, literally, I've invested well over $100 million into companies for people I've never met to this day.
Interesting.
Rule number 6 is become a nicer person.
My biggest regret was I wasn't as nice as I should have been. You know, in my mind, I didn't suffer any fools, right? If I didn't think you were using common sense, then I would get annoyed. And no one liked to be around me when I was annoyed. And for me, it was just like faster, 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 faster. The train's speeding up. How fast can we go? That was a huge regret that I would do over again.
I think with the Mavericks, when we had our problem with sexual harassment, and I wasn't there to oversee it, I thought by that point in time I wasn't, like today, I didn't go into the office ever. And so I missed it, and it hurt a lot of people, and that was awful. So I'd say, those two things are probably the lowlights of my career.
Rule number 7 is spend on experiences.
The best money I ever spent was when I bought a lifetime pass on American Airlines. Right after I sold my first company, I got really, really inebriated with a bunch of my really good friends. And they were all like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And, I'm not a fancy guy, as you can tell. I'm not into this and that, but I like to travel, I like to have fun. And I bought a lifetime pass on American Airlines for $125,000, which let me travel 100,000 miles, I think, a year for the rest of my life. So if all of a sudden I turn 20 years old with $20 in my pocket in this crazy year, 2020, could I be successful again? The answer is yes. And I'll tell you exactly what I would do. I'd get any job at all that allows me to pay my bills. Doesn't matter what it is, because now I know I can learn from anything that I do. Number 2, now that I have a little bit of a tech background, or a lot of tech background, I teach myself to do Amazon Alexa and Google Home skills. A lot of people have Amazon Alexa in particular, and they know how to use it generically, but they don't know how customizable it is. So I would, just like I did back in the days when I started Micro Solutions, and I went to all these different retail stores, handing out my business cards saying, if you ever have questions or need help with PCs and computers, I'm your guy. I would do the same thing now.
Rule number 8 is be an encourager.
When I look for leadership, I look for a few things. One, it's somebody who can relate to people, someone who can define a vision, someone who is nice, and someone who recognizes that it truly comes down to helping people achieve their personal goals and aligning those with the goals of the organization. If you can take the goals of your organization, whether it's your company or somebody you work for, and align them with the interests of the people that work for you, you'll be a great leader. And you also have to recognize, in this day and age, people aren't looking for lifetime jobs at a company. They want jobs that'll help them improve their own skill set so they can find a better place in life that they enjoy. And if you help people realize their personal goals like that, great things will happen for you as a leader.
Rule number 9 is help others.
I think now I've really evolved some of my focus to trying to help disadvantaged entrepreneurs, people who have less opportunity. I just invested with a woman, Arlen Hamilton, who we together created a little $1 million fund where she's going out and finding 10 businesses run by people of color or disadvantaged LGBTQ type communities, and just opening doors, because I think my experience applies to anybody, right? Any entrepreneur, no matter what you're trying to sell. And I also think that it's a great business opportunity simply because the markets that they want to sell to are underserved. There just aren't as many entrepreneurs, so there's more opportunity. And so I think it makes great business sense as well.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is look for experts.
Whether in business or sports, when building your team, are you more interested in getting someone who is an expert at something, or would you rather have someone with more potential? Question of the day. Olivier, I want an expert. Everybody's got potential. Everybody. I want someone who knows something. Give me someone who knows their shit every time, because then I can turn it into something real. The key to being successful and achieving your dreams, no matter what they are, is finding something you really, really like to do and being great at it. When you're great at something, you get to write your own ticket. So I'm always going to hire the expert. If you just have potential, chances are you're working for the expert.
Generally speaking, Mark, as we kind of wind things up here, you have lived your life as an iconoclast. And in a way, that's a template for other people, but in a way, it isn't. So in other words, how much, you've got an ordinary person, ordinary man or woman, how much of an iconoclast could you or should you be like Mark Cuban?
Oh, I don't care. You should just be yourself, right? I mean, I take pride in the fact that I didn't give a shit what anybody thought or said. I was just going to be myself, and I'm my dad's son, I'm my mom's son, I'm my brother's brother. I'm Alexis, Alyssa, and Jake's father, Tiffany's husband. I just try to do the best like everybody else. I mean, I've been blessed. Like I say all the time, I'm the luckiest guy in the world, and I just try not to take it for granted. I try to enjoy every minute. And I think now, as I've gotten a little bit older, I try to give a little bit more back than I have before, and try to help more people. And in terms of whatever, if anybody else finds themselves in my position, just enjoy the moment, enjoy every minute of it.
I mean, I guess my question is, are you a role model for people in society?
I don't know. I mean, I never thought of it. I mean, it's not something I try to be. I just try to be myself. I just try to help where I can, do what I can, be a good dad, and I'm not trying to be something for somebody else, just myself.
In terms of content, there's never too much content. There's just, because what we want and who we are and how we consume content changes every day through our experiences. The challenge of content isn't can you make it or is there too much. The challenge of content, whether it's business content, the proposals you make, what you put on your website, how you connect to people, is can you tell a good story? And now storytelling has evolved. It used to be we all congregated around the TV and there were 250 channels, but it was the best alternative to boredom. You come home, you're worn out, you sit there, one hand goes in the pants, the other hand goes on the beer, and you watch TV. Now, all the content comes to us. No matter where we are, there's a source of content, and who we are and how old we are and our experiences, that defines what we like. Just go to Twitch. Like, I have a 9-year-old son who plays Fortnite all day, every day, if we would let him, right? And he'll watch Ninja. Now, Ninja is I don't know if you all know who he is. He's like a big guy on Twitch that streams Fortnite games. And he came to the Mavs practice facility one day because we got to be friends just through random sources. He was a bigger star than when Tom Hanks came to visit. I mean, and this is a guy on Twitch. Now, Twitch is unlimited options of content related to gaming and other things, and they're expanding. YouTube, obviously, just unlimited content. And it's not like YouTube's struggling. Where the takeaway from all this is when there's so many options for content, as business people, you have to figure out how to connect with people. You have to know your audience, and you have to know how to tell a story. And honestly, that's not my strength. I literally, and I forget the name of the book, I'd have to look at my phone, I'm reading a book on storytelling. Because that's how people connect. We have so many choices. If you can't absorb us with something that engages us, a story, and simplify it into a story that we want to connect with, the next person is going to be the next person is going to come in and take your business. I get that question all the time. So what industry should I look at? I can tell you all about artificial intelligence, computer vision, personalized medicine, but then what, right? And so, and maybe you're an expert in one of those fields and you can go for it. But what I tend to try to tell people in terms of what does it take to be successful, find something you love to do and then be great at it. Not average, not marginal, not good enough, but if you can be great at it, be great at it. If you are the greatest videographer in the history of videographers, people don't care about cell phones. What is it that you can do that makes them know that the way you do it is special? And if you can do that and convey it, then you'll be fine. If you're not sure, then you've got to decide whether you want to stay on your own, be a contractor or go work for somebody. It just depends. And let me add one other thing. I crushed myself, and like my brothers didn't. They took a completely different path, and they were looking just 9 to 5 at yada yada. Not everybody's got to be an entrepreneur. And so if you've got it in your blood and that's what you want to do, then find a way to be great. And if not, you'll figure it out. You'll find something else. Now I'm going through and teaching myself neural networks and doing the same thing with machine learning and GANs and this and that, because AI is going to have more of an impact than the internet did. AI plus new types of chipsets plus 5G is going to change things far more than we've ever seen anything change. And understanding where and how to apply it is going to be critical, but just as important, knowing how to segregate and separate the bullshit, right, is as important, because every email y'all are about to send me is going to say, I have this AI solution and we're using algorithms. Yeah, of course you are, right? And then what? What really makes you different? What really sets you apart? But if I didn't do that work, If I didn't sit down and do the AWS machine learning tutorials, if I didn't go on YouTube and take, the NYU Introduction to Neural Networks or whatever, I'm not going to know it, I'm not going to be able to apply it, and I'm not going to be able to be first. And that's fun. That's fun. Knowing I get to kick the ass of some 22-year-old NYU graduate, that's awesome.
I'd like to talk a little bit about failure. You've had some, and famously, I think were fired from early jobs, right, which forced you to be an entrepreneur. Were there any failures that, in hindsight, were just super valuable and like set you on the path?
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, I mean, I learned more from the places I got fired from and the places I worked that I hated than I did from the places I liked. I learned what not to do. I got fired because I went to close a sale instead of opening up a retail store and sweeping the floor, yada, yada, thinking that when I brought back a check from a closed deal, he would be all excited, and he fired me. I learned from that sales cures all. That company was out of business not much later.
Yeah.
And, it just taught me so many lessons about how to deal with things, how to treat people, what to focus on. And that led to, me getting started, and also taught me that, when I was living 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment, I had nothing to lose, nothing, right? And so being young was a perfect time to start a business, because what was my downside? We taking a 7th roommate, it's just like, and so, there was so much I learned from the places where things on the surface seemed to go wrong, but I learned what not to do. And sometimes that's just as important as what you do.
Do you think, like, let's just say if we put 10 guys here, you interview them, okay? You could, within a 5-10 minute interview, say, this dude's not going to make it as an entrepreneur. Could you pretty much know that?
I'm not very good at interviewing. The issue is my interview skills more than,
really?
I'm horrible at it.
Isn't Shark Tank interviewing, though?
Well, yeah, it is, but I get to do due diligence after the fact, right? So I get to play my henches, but I get to check. Yeah, I mean, I can typically tell, right? I can tell but by their passion, I can tell by their focus, I can tell by their preparation. There's a whole realm of things in any business. Here's the business you're in, and here's 1,000 things that influence whether or not you're going to be successful. And really, to me, by through my experience in businesses, I can put myself in his position and say, okay, here are 900 of the 1,000 things he has to be aware of, and then go through and ask. And by how many of those or her issues they've been able to address already, that kind of gives me a sense of how hard they're willing to work. And I can tell by the questions they ask me. So all I have to do is say, okay, what do you want to know? And, when they start saying, what should I do?
They ask you.
Yeah, and that's fine, right? And I want them to ask questions, but, people like to say, the only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask, and that's not right, right? Because the questions you ask tell whoever more about you than anything else you do. Because in particular, it tells me about your preparation. If you ask me questions about just basic things that you should have known and you should have down to a science, that's going to disqualify you almost more than anything.
When I got to Dallas, I was a bartender at night, and I moved in. One of my buddies from Indiana said, you got to come to Dallas. And I'm like, I'm there. My car would only get so far. I had a Fiat X19 with a hole in the floorboard that guzzled oil every 60 miles. And I went down there, and there's a place called The Village. It's was the world's largest apartment complex. We had 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment. I didn't have my own room. I didn't have my own drawer. I didn't have my closet. I had a pile, and I had one ratty towel that I stole from Motel 6. And that was it. And so I was looking for my career, got a job at a software store. And I was, didn't have a tech background, so I was teaching myself all this. Because the way I look at tech is somebody invents it, and everybody else is tied for second place in the ability to learn it. And if I work harder and faster to really dive in, even if it means reading the manual, just diving in, then I can get a head start.
How old were you during
I was 24. And so sleeping on the floor, working in a software company, learning, getting better at what I was doing. And then one day, because I was dying to get out of that rat hole that I lived in, I had a chance to go out and close a sale that would have got me a $1,500 commission. And so I went to my boss, his name is Michael Humecki, and I said, boss, one of my responsibilities was to sweep the floor, wipe down the windows, and open the door to open the store. I got the sale. You got to let me close the sale. He goes, no. You got to be in there to open the store. And I'm like, Michael, no. So I made the executive decision to go out, pick up the check, thinking if I hand this guy a $15,000 check, of course he's going to change his mind. Fired me on the spot.
And so here I was, living in a shithole, excuse my French, you know, just this ratty place with a Motel 6 towel, sorry, Motel 6, and really didn't know how I was going to get out. But I decided, okay, I'm a lousy employee. I went to one of the companies that I'd been talking to, Architectural Lighting, and I said, look, I need $500 to be able to buy the software you want, and I promise you that even if it doesn't work, I will wash your car, you know, I will walk your dog, I don't care what it is, I will do whatever it takes to make it up to you. And they gave me the $500, and that allowed me to create Micro Solutions. And you know, 6 months later, I was out of the rat hole, and my company turned into a real company, and that's the one I sold for $6 million when I was 29, 30 years old.
You talked about companies having a unique advantage. Can you speak more on that for me, please?
Sure. I mean, what is it that a customer can get from you that they can't get from anybody else? And you have to be very careful with that too. When I just talked about lying to yourself as an entrepreneur, because often we'll say, well, it's just like Uber, but it has pink cars. Uber doesn't have pink cars. That's a difference without a distinction, right? Lots of times people get confused between what's a product and what's a feature. Pink Uber cars, that's a feature. That's not a unique product. Excuse me. So you have to know what it is that you do that is so unique, your potential customers say, whoa, I did not know that. As opposed to, well, let me go tell Uber that they should probably add pink cars. Because whenever you're competing with, you know, all of you are going to compete with Amazon at some point, if you're not already. Just the reality. And so you've got to understand, when Amazon starts looking at my customer base, what is it that I can convey to them that makes me unique? And that's what I meant by unique difference.
You've got to go to AFWorks to see our AFWork team. You just got to meet some more Spark Tank finalists. What advice would you give them on innovation and how to take it forward?
I mean, learn from what you saw up here. I mean, the brilliance of each and every one of those ideas is that someone saw a problem. And let me add, all of us have had ideas that we thought were going to be the next great thing. Right? We get that feeling in our stomach, oh, this is going to be amazing. And then you talk about it with your friends or who you work with, and they say, what a great idea. And then most of us stop. What you saw up here and what made it so compelling is that they didn't stop. There weren't complicated solutions, right? I mean, some of them were advanced technologically or they were super smart, but they were simple in that they just took basic problems and they tried to solve them. There's nothing, that's something each and every one of us can do. And so the best advice that I can give you is do it. You know, when you have that idea, when you have that opportunity, do it, because that's what separates the people that just separates the entrepreneurs or the intrapreneurs from everybody else. They just took that first step. Don't be afraid, take that first step. What's the worst thing that can happen?
One of the attitude I got from my dad was, you know, when you're older and you look back at your life, what will be the things that you remember? And think about that when you say yes or no to doing something that's really bizarre or really interesting. And so I've tried to take that attitude, whether it was, you know, buying the Mavs or doing Dancing with the Stars, or if you really want to see me embarrass myself. And look, I have no problem embarrassing myself, as all my friends will tell you. But if it's something different and it's just something bizarre and interesting, I'll do it. So if you turn to TNT tonight, there's a show called Drop the Mic, and you'll see me rap. And I am the world's worst rapper, but it was so much fun. And so, you know, when I'm 90 years old and I look back and say, should I have done Drop the Mic and rapped and looked like an idiot? Hell yes. Hell yes, right? Because I got this unique experience where this professional rapper taught me how to rap, and they gave me all this stuff, and I got to, you know, battle with Rusev, this guy who wrestles for WWE, who's like 5'8" and 400 pounds of muscle, and, you know, who threatened to kick my ass in our little battle. So it was fun.
I describe myself as a grinder. You know, I just, like we talked about learning, that's a grind, but I love it, you know, and I think I've just learned what I'm good at and learned to focus on those things and try to, you know, utilize those skills to now, you know, not just be an entrepreneur, but probably more often now invest in and help other entrepreneurs.
I grew up, my dad did upholstery on cars. My mom did odd jobs. My mom, when I was in high school, was worried about whether or not I could have a career and, made sure she hooked me up with a family friend to learn how to lay carpet because she wanted me to know a trade just in case things didn't pan out, if and when I went to college. So yeah, it wasn't like, oh yeah, this is destiny and, my parents are going to hook me up or, I knew this was going to happen. It was, who the hell knows what's going to happen, but I was all in for wherever direction it went.
Michael Jordan had the body, he had the temperament of a champion, so he goes into sports. Do you think, they call that bounded rationality, instead of saying I could be every possible thing in the world, you kind of limit it and say, all right, I'm more of a math guy. Oh, I'm more of a people person. And then you try to find your destiny within that?
Well, I think they go hand in hand, right? Because the type of person you are, kind of points to the things you're good at. Are you 12? You're not going to know. Are you 16? You're not going to know. If you're 18, maybe if you have a special talent, right? You can throw a baseball 100 miles an hour. You can sing and your voice is incredible. You're a concert pianist. You're a chess grandmaster. If you have a specific skill set or talent that just immediately propels you to the top, you want to follow that. But I remember having a list. I still have it. When I graduated from college, I was getting ready to graduate, and all the different industries that I thought I might want to partake in. When you find something you're good at, go for it. And I also always say it's not about passion. Everybody's got passion for something, right? Don't follow your passions, follow your efforts. Because people say, I was passionate to play baseball. I was passionate to play basketball. It doesn't mean all of a sudden I was going to be good enough. But I found myself being really curious about business, being really curious about technology. And that curiosity is really what drove me. And I think, particularly if you're young today, curiosity is great. Always learning and trying to find new things and being curious about new things, because that's what leads you to that path. Trying to figure out in advance, that's hard because you don't know what you don't know.
My best mistake, that's a great question. Probably buying the Mavs, everybody told me I was an idiot. And
why?
Just because we were the worst team in all professional sports. And that's what everybody said. And I had paid the highest price for a sports team up until that point. And everybody said I was a moron. The second thing, the other time was when we sold to Yahoo, it was for 28 million shares of stock. And I immediately collared my stock to protect it on the downside. Now, this was not when the internet stock market was cratering. It was still going up. Right? And so I collared my stock, meaning I didn't really share in much of the gains going up, and there was a limit to the gains I shared. And Yahoo stock immediately went up 30%. And I remember going on CNBC, and they said, don't you feel bad about losing? It's gone up another 80 points, and you'd be worth another $700 million. And I was like, it's tough to feel bad when you're sitting on your G5 watching CNBC, But so collaring my stock, everybody thought was a big mistake because they thought the market was going to keep on going up, and that's not how it turned out.
I started my first business when I was 12. I was buying and selling baseball cards, buying and selling stamps. Anything I could do to make money, I was hustling and trying to do. So I was into business, but I not so much where it was all my friends were into it with me, so they wouldn't know.
Baseball cards.
Yeah, baseball cards, you name it. I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh. And so I would, probably even less than 12 years old, I would, go out and buy a bunch of baseball cards that I collected. And I would package, I would say, okay, you're guaranteed to have a Pittsburgh Pirate in this package. And I would charge 3 times as much. And I'd set up on this park bench down in the park down in Scott Township where I grew up. And I'd have these little sales. And it was great. I made money, and it was, and I learned as much about business when I was 9, 10, and 12 as I learned any other time.
My dad busted his ass. I mean, he worked six days a week, left at 7:30 in the morning, got back at 6 or 7 o'clock, lost his eye in an accident doing upholstery. He had a staple break when he was putting some covering on a car seat. It was a middle class upbringing. My mom did odd jobs. They just wanted something better. I mean, my grandparents came over from Russia, and my dad was the first generation. My uncles were the first generation Americans, like my mom too. And like every child of immigrants, they wanted better for their kids.
It's funny. I mean, a lot of people grow up that way, right? But not many people end up like you. So, what do you think that's the result of?
I think, everybody's got something that they're good at, and the hard part is just finding it. And I found out early that I was a good salesperson, that I really liked business. You know, like I like sports. I mean, I read everything I possibly could, played sports as much as I could, just wasn't as good as I wanted to be. And business was the same way. I mean, as long as I could remember, I was buying and selling baseball cards, garbage bags, whatever I could find, stamps to collectors. But I was also reading everything I possibly could about business. And, you know, I was that unusual kid that I'd rather read about Ted Turner than go to the movies. And so I think that created a foundation. And my parents, you know, my dad used to always say, I don't understand what you're doing, but I'm glad you're doing it. And so I had my ups and downs along the way, of course. But I just think that I just put in the time and was fortunate enough to really get excited about business, and that paid off benefits over the long haul.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome.
For 50 more amazing rules from Ray Dalio, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You know, there's one sentence that I try to describe Bridgewater: meaningful work and meaningful relationships through radical truth and radical transparency. So meaningful work means we're in a mission together.